From the mouth to the source, the Danube travels 2,840 kilometers. After the Volga, it is the second longest and second largest river in Europe. The world-famous source of the Danube is one of several karst springs. The spring water that rises here takes its course underground as the Danube stream through the castle park in Donaueschingen. In about 100 meters it flows into the Brigach. The spring is one of a total of 22 springs in the vicinity of the confluence. The water of rivers collects from an almost unmanageable number of spring channels that gradually unite. .4 kilometers further, Brigach and Brieg bring the Danube away. From here we follow the Danube to Budapest and show what you can see and experience on the way there. Only 25 kilometers from Donaueschingen, some signs appear on the riverbank. We are at the Danube seepage. If you look closely, the river current is a bit different here. Part of the Danube disappears into the earth in a drain. This is due to the many crevices and caves in the porous limestone. We also see this in some places on the riverbank. In the summer months, the riverbed is usually completely dried up. But where did the water go? Well, it reappears about 12 kilometers further south and 100 meters deeper at the Archtopf. From here it flows over the Radolfzeller Arch into Lake Constance and from there over the Rhine into the North Sea. Back to seepage. The well-known Danube cycle path also runs along here. Cyclists will have to take a different route outside the summer months, because the Danube then carries more water and continues to flow clearly visible above ground. Due to the many springs and streams in this area, the Danube grows slowly but steadily. The upper Danube valley is part of the Swabian Alb. From the Eichfelsen you have a good view of the Danube flowing below. The limestone rocks are up to 200 meters high. The Danube cycle path runs parallel to the river here. The area is a popular destination for hikers and climbers. How about a hike in the Princely Park in Zitkofen, for example? The hiking trail leads along the rock faces. Through a rock gate we reach the Devil's Bridge, just under 21 meters above the whole gorge. From a suspension bridge, the Amalienfelsen comes into view. On it is the memory of Amalie Zephyrine 1841. According to a legend, the princess was lovesick and threw herself from here on a white horse into the waters of the Danube. In fact, she died at the age of 81 in the old prince's building in Sigmaringen, which was built for her.
Ich weiß es nicht. Keine Ahnung, ich habe noch nie welche gehabt.
As early as the 11th century, the first castle complex was built on a freestanding rock. The Hohenzollern Castle was often expanded and rebuilt. This is how the largest of all Danube Valley castles was created. The castle is definitely worth a visit. It is not splendor and glory or pomp and splendor that make the guided tours a piece of living contemporary history, but it is the people who lived, loved and dreamed behind the venerable walls. They were strategists, diplomats and visionaries. They shaped European history like hardly any other noble family. At the beginning of the 19th century, Prince Karl of Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen ruled. His wife Antoinette began to refurnish the princely residence in French chic. Starting with the furniture, to the wallpaper, to the mirrors for the dining room. In this way, she opened up access to the European aristocracy for the House of Hohenzollern. As a guest of the princess, the future French Emperor Napoleon III, son of the brother of Napoleon I, stayed here several times. For many decades, the Hohenzollerns were enthusiastic hunters, as we can guess here. With around 3,000 exhibits, the weapons collection in the castle is considered the largest private weapons collection in Europe. The exhibits in the collection show the history and development from the 14th to the 20th century. Today, Hohenzollern Castle is the administrative seat of the Princes of Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen. Back to the Danube. Slowly but surely, it is getting wider. From time to time there are information centers for cyclists. Here, for example, in a train station. Where an angler stands peacefully on the shore. Their retreating Wehrmacht soldiers in 1945 blew up a bridge to stop the Allied forces. Some remains of the pier foundations can still be seen in the water. The only reminder of the old bridge from the year 1894 is an old head, which also remained. Today, the village can be reached again via a new bridge. Even from afar, the Ulm Minster marks the city of Ulm. With a height of 161 meters, the Ulm Minster is the tallest church in the world. Past the town hall, our way goes through the pedestrian zone. This is where an old and modern architectural style meet. The Fisherman's Quarter is definitely worth a visit. The Klein and Großblau flow through this district and, like the Iller, flow into the Danube. (1443) was built around an even older, smaller house, Fisherman's House. It slipped more and more, so 400 years later it was given a concrete foundation. Today it is very well known as the Leaning House of Ulm and is in the Guinness Book of Records. Around 300 years ago, in the age of the Turkish wars, sailors transported troops across the Danube to Belgrade here. This picture is a reminder of that. Today, only small boats cruise in front of the city. Sometimes the Danube cycle path is almost like a dirt road, but still easy to drive. You should pay close attention to some traffic signs, especially here. In Donauwörth, the Wernitz flows into the Danube. Nevertheless, the Danube is only 1.5 meters deep here, too shallow for shipping traffic. Around 1750 it was different. There was a developed harbor here. Ships sailed from here to Vienna. Today, nothing is left of the old port. From the monument, a riverside promenade leads along the Danube. Nearby, the young Danube observes what is happening in the city. A fountain is a reminder of the former settlement by fishermen. Through the Red Tor we reach the townhouses from the Renaissance. Today they house shops. At the top of a hill lies the monastery of the Holy Cross. Here Napoleon Bonaparte had, the first, in the year 1805, set up his headquarters for 2 days. The floor is blackened in places. Here the soldiers made fires, so they warmed up in the cold church. It was the 7th of October. On a hill in the Lech Delta, Napoleon watched his army cross the Danube and the Lech beyond. One day later, the first battle between Austrians and French took place, which ended in a victory for Napoleon's troops. The many battles that followed are summarized as the Battle of Ulm. A good 14 kilometers behind Donauwörth, the Danube receives more water again. Much more, in fact. This is where the Lech flows. Again, the Danube flows along a castle. More than 500 years ago, a Renaissance castle was created from a former castle complex. For a long time it was the residence of the Wittelsbach Duchy of Palatinate Neuburg. The castle can be visited. "20 kilometers further downstream we reach Ingolstadt. 1385 the cross gate was built. It is a landmark and an access to the old town. The Liebfrauenmünster is the tallest building here. We almost always go straight ahead. Through a pedestrian zone we reach the Paradeplatz. The Bavarian Army Museum is located in a former castle. If you are more interested in advantage through technology, you can visit the car museum in the Audi Forum in the north of the city. More than 100 automobiles and two-wheelers illustrate the history of the company. An exciting journey through time that begins 1899. Some buyers also pick up their new car here, perhaps in connection with a factory tour. Back to the old town. Directly at the castle, a Danube footbridge leads to the other side of the city. Below flows the Danube, which we will continue to follow. The river is still shipless, but that will change very soon. We reach the Altmoor Valley. Nature lovers can explore the Weltenberg hiking trails here. One of them also leads along the Danube Gorge. However, we will use another means of transport. Kelheim is home to the oldest monastery brewery in the world. Beer was brewed here almost 1,000 years ago. From Kelheim, ships can also operate on the Danube. Additional water comes from the Orkney or from the main Danube Canal. This is also where the ship that will take us to the Danube breakthrough departs. After a few minutes, an imposing building appears on the Michelsberg, the Liberation Hall. King Ludwig I had the memorial built for the victorious battles against Napoleon, and as a memorial to the unity of Germany. The outer facade shows 18 German tribes that took part in the battles against Napoleon's troops. Two goddesses of victory each present a shield denoting the battles of the wars of liberation. The plaques above the pillar gallery mention the generals. Above them are the places of siege. We drive upstream, i.e. back. 150 million years ago, a shallow, subtropical sea covered the Kelheim area. Corals and sponges built mighty reefs out of limestone. The rock faces of the Weltenberger Enge were created. Around 200,000 years ago, a tributary of the Primeval Danube dug through the limestone and thus created today's riverbed of the Danube. The breakthrough valley is bordered by rock walls up to 70 meters high, in which numerous smaller caves are located. The Bavarian king, Ludwig I, placed the area under nature conservation as early as 1840. It is one of the oldest nature reserves in Bavaria. On the day of the king's death, a rock broke off. Even today, it lies weathered near the main Danube Canal. Where the light meets the dark edge, so high was the century flood Pentecost 1999. Over a length of 5 kilometers, the Danube has eaten its way through the limestone. Without human help, without blasting, only by the forces of nature. Here near Weltenberg, between the so-called still wall and a large wall, the river narrows to 80 meters and reaches a water depth of 20 meters. It is the deepest and narrowest point of the Bavarian Danube. The Langer Wand has recessed rings. In the past, the fishermen used these to pass the most dangerous part of the breakthrough. The patron saint of Saint Nepomuk is supposed to protect boatmen and fishermen from water dangers. We reach Weltenberg Monastery, one of the oldest monasteries in Bavaria. It houses the oldest monastery brewery in the world. But unfortunately, we are too early. The beer garden is still closed. So we go back downstream. A good 8 kilometers from Kelheim, a lion looks at the Danube. Another, on a large memorial plaque. This is reminiscent of the difficult road construction at the Teufelsfelsen in the 18th century. Previously, there were frequent floods here on the lower road. A lock marks the entrance to Regensburg on the Danube. This is temporarily divided into 3 arms. The stone bridge, originally from the 12th century, spans 2 of them. It is 300 meters long. The bridge creates dangerous whirlpools. Therefore, ships drive around the area on a canal, or turn around here. As early as 2,000 years ago, the Romans took advantage of the strategically favorable location and laid the foundation stone of the city. Within the walls of Castra Regina, the Roman legionary camp of Emperor Marcus Aurelius is the core of the medieval city. It is the best preserved in Germany. Regensburg Cathedral is named after St. Peter. It is one of the most important cathedrals in Germany. It is noon. Numerous restaurants invite you to try the home-style food. Delicious. Long-distance trade brought not only luxury goods to Regensburg, but also wealth and civic pride. In the Middle Ages, people traveled downstream to distant countries to trade. We are now also continuing in this direction. In the meantime, the former stream and river have become a real river. Near Deggendorf, the Isar flows into the Danube. 60 kilometers further on we reach the Three Rivers Corner in Passau. The water of the Ilz comes from the north, colored black by the moorland. It flows into the blue-brown Danube. Shortly afterwards, the Inn is added from the south. Their water from the Swiss Alps is green. This is where the river cruises towards Hungary begin, and sometimes even further. We see this now in the second part of our journey, 1,200 kilometers along the Danube.